Welcome to Tell Me More Stories Told As podcast. Get ready because we're about to dive into a story that's, well, truly unique and pretty unsettling.
That's right.
Forget those dry recaps. We're going deep, really adventurous into a headline that just gripped the whole nation. We want to uncover the surprising facts and the raw human reactions behind it all.
Exactly. Today, we're looking into the events surrounding the killing of Brian Thompson back in December 2024.
Brian Thompson, the CEO of
The
UnitedHealthcare.
very same. But like you said, what our sources show, it goes way beyond just a simple crime story. We're talking about some really deep-seated frustrations boiling over.
And sparking just incredibly intense and really divided public reactions. It was something else.
Definitely.
So we're going to unpack the whole thing. We'll start with the background, who Brian Thompson was, what UnitedHealthcare is all about. Then get into the chilling details of the killing itself, the investigation that followed, and how they caught the suspect, Luigi Mangione.
But it's not just the what and how, is it? We're really going to try and dig into the why. What were the possible motives? What clues were left?
And maybe the most surprising part, that incredibly divided reaction from the public, from politicians. It was just wild.
Yeah, that's where it gets really unique, I think, that wave of online reactions.
See, exactly. You have the shock, the condemnation, which you'd expect, right?
Sure.
But then also the significant amount of sympathy, even praise for the accused in some places. It just ignited this firestorm about the U.S. healthcare system.
It really did. Okay, so let's start with the context. Brian Thompson. He became CEO of UnitedHealthcare in April 2021.
But he wasn't new to the company, was he?
Not at all. He'd actually been there since 2004. So yeah, long tenure. He knew the company inside out.
And UnitedHealthcare itself, I mean, it's a giant.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The biggest health insurer in the U.S. We're talking, 49 million Americans insured?
Wow.
And their revenue in 2023 was reported at $281 billion. Wow. Huge numbers.
$281 billion. That's staggering. And profits were apparently up under Thompson, too.
They were, but, that massive scale, that $281 billion figure, it might have made the company seem, I don't know, untouchable. Maybe made Thompson a kind of symbolic target for all that discontent bubbling up.
That makes sense. And it wasn't like the company was without its critics, right?
Far from it. Even with those profits, there was a lot of scrutiny over how they handled claims. Just in October 2024, there was that Senate report looking into Medicare Advantage patients.
Right, the private plans run through Medicare.
Exactly. And the findings weren't flattering. Republica had done investigations too, and the Senate's work. It was described by some as a stain on Thompson's leadership. Lots of focus on claim denials.
Really sets the scene, doesn't it? And then there was that report from Thompson's widow.
Yeah, that he'd been getting threats.
Related to, quote, lack of insurance coverage. So the anger is definitely there, directed right at the top.
Clearly. Okay, let's shift gears to the suspect, Luigi Mangione.
What do we know about him?
Well, at the time of his arrest, he was 26. And interestingly, no prior criminal record. None at all.
Really?
Yeah. Last known address was Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yeah.
And another kind of unsettling detail, his mother had actually reported him missing back in November 2024.
So he just sort of appeared in New York.
Seems like it. Sources say he arrived on a Greyhound bus November 24th. Where he came from specifically, that's still a bit unclear.
Okay. And what did he do when he got to the city?
Well, this suggests some planning. He checked into the HI New York City hostel up on the Upper West Side.
Using a fake ID.
Yep, a falsified New Jersey ID. And paid in cash for the whole stay. He was there for most of the 10 days right before the killing happened.
And didn't the hostel have cameras?
They did. CCTV actually caught his face, unmasked, when he checked in. Which is interesting because
His roommate said he basically never took his mask off.
Exactly. Only to eat, apparently. He wore a black face mask pretty much constantly. So it suggests, try to hide, but having to show his face at certain points.
Yeah.
Calculated.
Calculated is a good word. And he didn't just stay at the hostel, right? There were reports he was scouting locations.
Yeah, reports suggest he cased the New York Hilton Midtown.
The hotel where Thompson was staying.
Precisely. Thompson was in town for the annual United Health Group investors meeting. He'd flown in from Minneapolis just a couple of days before on December 2nd.
Okay, so take us to the morning of the killing, December 4th.
Right. It's early, around 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Thompson is walking just on the street, heading towards the Hilton.
And the attacker
was waiting across the street. Then, sources say, crossed over, got within about 20 feet, and fired 3 times.
with a suppressed pistol, right? A silencer.
Yeah, a suppressed 9mm pistol. That suppressor obviously muffles the sound, suggests wanting to avoid immediate attention. Thompson was hit in the back and also his right calf.
And what did police find at the scene?
They found 3 spent bullet casings, but also, interestingly, 3 live rounds that had been ejected from the gun.
Injected, like it malfunctioned.
That's the theory. CCTV footage apparently showed the shooter having to manually cycle the gun after each shot.
So not firing smoothly like a typical semi-automatic?
Exactly. It points to a potential malfunction. And the weapon itself. Police believe it was a partially 3D printed Glock 19.
A ghost gun.
Yep, fitted with a 3D printed suppressor too. These ghost guns, assembled from parts, sometimes 3D printed, are untraceable. The manual cycling might point to, issues with those non-standard parts.
Wow. A 3D printed gun and suppressor, that adds a whole other layer. And the casings, does they have words on them?
They did. This is a really key detail. The words delay, deny, and depose were inscribed on the casings.
Delay, deny, depose. That sounds familiar.
It's a phrase often used, critically, to describe how insurance companies allegedly handle claims, making it difficult, putting up roadblocks.
And the word depose.
Chillingly, that was on the casing from the round that actually hit Thompson.
So a very direct message, seemingly aimed at the industry, or Thompson himself.
It certainly appears that way. Okay, so after the shooting, the killer fled, took off on an e-bike, headed into Central Park.
And ditched some stuff.
Yeah, and in a carousel, apparently dropped a backpack. Inside was a jacket and Monopoly money.
Monopoly money, strange.
Very strange. Then he exited the park over on the west side at 77th Street. Police think he then probably left the city from the George Washington Bridge bus station, further uptown.
And Thompson?
He was rushed to Mount Sinai West Hospital, but tragically pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. The cause was the gunshot wound to the back. Just a brutal, targeted attack.
Okay, so the hunt is on. What happened next in the investigation?
Things moved fast. The NYPD, the FBI, they put up a significant reward pretty quickly for any information leading to the shooter.
And those images from the hostel and the Starbucks?
Became absolutely critical. Yeah, they released those to the public, including that one picture where he's actually smiling, kind of eerie.
Yeah, and the description they put out.
White male, about 6'1", specific clothing, the gray backpack, the black face mask. But investigators noted he seemed extremely camera savvy, like he knew where cameras might be.
And proficient with guns, despite the apparent malfunction.
That was the assessment, yeah. Seemed comfortable handling the firearms.
So how did they catch him?
The breakthrough came just a few days later, December 9th. Luigi Mangione was arrested. Not in New York, though.
Where?
In Altoona, Pennsylvania. At a McDonald's, believe it or not.
A McDonald's. How did they find him there?
An employee recognized him from the photos the police released. Called it in. Sharp eyes.
Wow. And what did they find on him?
Pretty much the smoking gun, or guns, rather. They found a 3D printed pistol and a suppressor consistent with the ones used in the shooting.
Okay.
Also, that falsified New Jersey driver's license, same name he used at the hostel, and a 3-page handwritten letter. Plus, his fingerprints matched prints from the crime scene.
A handwritten letter. Like a manifesto.
That's how it's been widely described, yeah. It apparently laid out this really sharp critique of the U.S. healthcare system. Talked about high costs, lower life expectancy compared to other developed countries.
Did it mention Thompson or the company specifically?
It reportedly referred to parasites in the healthcare industry, and it included the line, "It had to be done."
Chilling. Did he say if anyone helped him?
In the letter, he claimed he acted completely alone.
So those details, the letter, the words on the casings, it all points towards a motive related to the healthcare system, doesn't it?
It really does. And investigators apparently made another connection.
What was that?
To Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber.
Really? How?
Mangione had apparently posted a review on Goodreads of Kaczynski's Manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future.
Huh. So suggesting maybe some shared ideology, anti-establishment, anti-corporate, maybe.
That's what investigators seem to be exploring. Kaczynski's Manifesto, is a critique of modern tech and industrial society. Mangione engaging with it definitely raises questions about his mindset.
So, pulling it all together, what's the main theory on motive?
The leading idea is this deep-seated anger or ill will towards the health insurance industry in general.
Potentially linked to his own experience. Didn't he have a back injury?
Yes, apparently he suffered a back injury, spondylolisthesis, in July 2023. He'd even written about it online. So yeah, a personal health struggle could definitely have fueled resentment against the system.
Against UnitedHealthcare specifically, or just insurers overall?
Sources suggested resentment towards UnitedHealthcare and other insurers. Interestingly, though, UnitedHealthcare put out a statement saying he wasn't actually one of their customers.
So maybe more symbolic. The chief of detectives mentioned the company's size, right?
Yeah, Joseph Kenney suggested the sheer size and prominence of UnitedHealthcare might have made them, and Thompson as CEO, a target, a symbol of the system he resented.
It's just such a stark picture. An individual with no record, apparently driven by this intense feeling about the industry.
And those words on the casings, delay, deny, depose, just hammer that point home. It taps right into common frustrations.
Okay, this is where the story takes another really wild turn, the reaction.
Yeah, the public and online reaction was something else, just incredibly complex.
You had the expected shock, of course, but then this huge wave of contempt, mockery aimed at Thompson and United Health Group.
Widespread, yeah. It was almost like a dam broke. All this pent-up frustration with healthcare insurance denials, it just poured out online.
People sharing their own nightmare stories.
Exactly. Floods of stories about denied claims, and then the memes, really dark humor, gallows humor. It was intense.
And some people were actually praising Mangione, calling him a hero.
Some did, yeah. Terms like folk hero, vigilante, comparisons to Robin Hood popped up, taking from the powerful, fighting the system.
Even comparisons to fictional characters like the Joker or V for Vendetta.
That narrative of the little guy versus the corrupt giant really resonated with some people. We saw bizarre stuff like look-alike contests, those wanted posters of CEOs.
And the hashtag #FreeLuigi, that actually trended on X.
It did, which is pretty extraordinary. Some experts were even comparing the intensity of it all to reactions back in the Gilded Age, another time of huge corporations and social tension.
It's fascinating stuff. And if you, listening, are finding this deep dive as gripping as we are, definitely hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss our future explorations here on Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast.
Good point. Because the reaction wasn't just online talk. It spilled into the real world, too, especially with fundraising.
Right. The crowdfunding for his legal defense
Sprang up almost instantly. GoFundMe took some down, but one on GiveSendGo, it raised a massive amount, over $720,000 by March 2025.
$720,000.
From who? People donating often cited their own frustrations with healthcare, with insurance. Some mentioned feeling the case was being unfairly politicized.
And Mangione acknowledged the support.
He did. Issued a statement thanking people through a website his defense team set up.
Meanwhile, how did the insurance corporations react? United Health Group must have been reeling.
You'd imagine so. Their own Facebook post about Thompson's death got thousands of ha-ha reactions before the disabled comments. Just shows the level of animosity out there.
Yeah. And wasn't there a leaked video involving the new CEO?
Yeah. A video surfaced apparently showing Andrew Whitty, the CEO who took over, defending the company's claim denial practices. Didn't exactly help optics.
Probably not.
And reportedly, UnitedHealth hired a defamation law firm, likely to go after some of the more extreme online criticism. We also saw other big insurers getting nervous.
How so?
Several quietly scrubbed executive names and photos from their websites. One canceled an in-person investor day, made it virtual instead, and definitely a spike in inquiries about CEO security across the industry.
Understandable, I guess. What about politicians? How did they respond?
Well, you had many officials expressing shock, offering condolences, condemning the act itself. Some specifically called out the online celebration of Mangione.
But not everyone stopped there, did they? Some progressives?
Right. Figures like Ro Khanna, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, Bernie Sanders. While they were very clear they didn't justify the violence at all, they did connect the public reaction back to what they see as predatory practices by the health insurance industry, pointing to that underlying anger.
So framing the reaction, if not the act, as a symptom of a broken system.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the opinion polls seemed to back up that divided sentiment.
What did they show?
Well, most people found the killing unacceptable, obviously. But younger people, and those leaning more left politically, were significantly more likely to say they either found it understandable or even sympathized with Mangione.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of people polled felt that the way insurance companies operate, their profits, bore some level of responsibility for the situation. Younger Americans especially viewed Mangione much more favorably than they viewed Thompson or UnitedHealthcare.
It's just incredible. This deep dive, it really shows this story is so much more than just, a murder.
Absolutely. The planning, that message on the shell casings, and then that just extraordinary public reaction. It paints this picture of really deep divides in society, intense feelings about healthcare in America.
And that unique fact, the alleged use of a 3D printed ghost gun. It adds this whole other technological kind of futuristic element, raises all sorts of questions about access, technology, crime.
It really is. It feels like something out of science fiction almost, but it was tragically real.
And that contrast in reactions, the grief and anger right alongside sympathy and celebration. It just powerfully highlights the intense emotions around healthcare access, affordability, makes you wonder about the root causes of that polarization.
It really does. And it leaves us with a pretty challenging question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What does it say about society when a tragedy like this brings out not just sorrow, but also a significant amount of, well, understanding, maybe even support for the person accused?
It's a tough thought, something to definitely keep exploring. What are the systemic issues really at play? And what are the long-term consequences of seeing such a divided response to something so violent?
Exactly. A lot to think about there.